Hello, Creative One, and welcome to Episode 5 of Design Curious Podcast. Today, we will explore the do's and don'ts of internships. In the interior design industry, internships are very common, and I get a lot of requests for those. So let's get into the episode and talk about what you should and shouldn't do at your internship. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, Creative One, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Okay, let's talk internships. As you know, I did an internship while I was in college. It was a really good one, and I was fortunate enough to get paid while I was doing it, and then it led for me to a part-time job. So that was very beneficial. I did get some variety of experience, and I thought it was definitely good that my degree required it as a prerequisite for graduating. Okay, so I have a list of do's and don'ts of internships. So let's go over the do's part first. So I would start off to say, do an internship, if at all possible. Nothing beats hands-on experience. It really is in the field that you get to see a designer in action and get a grasp of what the career really entails. I think it would be difficult to try to do an online internship. I don't know if any of those are available. I definitely tell you to try to get one where you go into their studio and help them out with the day-to-day requirements. Another thing I would tell you is do treat it like a real job. So that means show up on time. When they ask for you to show up, they might have a schedule set for you, like 2 or 3 days a week. Usually it's a part-time schedule. If you're doing it through your college program, they have a set number of hours you're trying to reach. But if it's not, then typically they won't have you working full-time. It'll be a part-time thing. Yes, show up on time when you're supposed to be there, dress professionally, and be ready to do the work that's asked of you. But you really are, it's like having a job. So it really is the designer in charge, or your supervisor is your employer, and you want to treat it as such. Do have a willing attitude. You might have to clean out files, run for coffee, typical intern tasks. You might have to haul furniture if you're asked to assist on an installation, or unpack boxes. And of course, if you have any physical limitations, make sure that is made aware to your employer, and be willing to take on tasks that you may have not done before. Also, do be resourceful and proactive. Your supervisor won't be able to hold your hand all the time, so try looking for possible answers to your questions before you take it to your supervisor, and present it to them to see if you're on track. Like, say you're sourcing a light for them, and then you're not exactly sure which type, but you have a general direction, so you might source a couple and see if this is the right direction. Or if you're filing paperwork, just try to find the answer first, and that'll be really appreciated by your supervisor. Do ask for consistent feedback. So most schools will require internships supervisors to do evaluations at various points and give feedback on how that student is performing in the office, how they're working with the other employees in the office, if there are any, and how they are acting, like if they're showing up on time, if they're businesslike, and if they have met the requirements that were expected of them. Do advocate for specific experiences. As you're going into your internship, you might be thinking that you either want to work at a similar place in the future, or maybe that you're thinking about going out on your own after school, after you get your experience. You can communicate specific experience you're hoping to gain, like attending client meetings, initial consultations, doing some sourcing, working on drawings, putting a plan set together, learning about materials. So those are all specific experiences that you definitely can request to be a part of at that firm. Do ask about trade shows and industry events. See if you can attend a furniture market on your own dime, of course, but could get admittance to it through your company. I actually did this with my interns. I had a pair of interns, one in the spring, one in the fall, and they were friends. And over the summer, I agreed to take them. Suggested it to them. I thought it'd be a great experience to take them to Las Vegas Market, which for us is not too far away, and accommodations can be fairly affordable at different hotels. So they went together, and I put them on my company as employees, and they were able to walk around and get this great experience of the furniture, how to deal with reps and vendors, and all of that was a great experience for them. So see if maybe the company that you're interning for might have that opportunity available to you. Also see if there are any local chapter events or CEUs that you could attend so you could start mingling with your employer's colleagues, other design professionals in the area, and kind of see how these industry events take place and the types of things you'd be learning as a professional. And then do ask about job options. The company you're interning with might have a part-time position available when your internship is up, or another firm that they know might have one available. An internship's a great way to get your foot in the door at a place. They kind of get to try you out, and then you get to learn how that company works before they actually put you onto payroll. And that actually is what happened with my designer right now. She was interning for us, and then about the time her internship was finished, we needed to hire someone, so we hired her on part-time. Okay, let's talk about some of the don'ts. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Your supervisor doesn't know what you don't know, so just speak up if you aren't familiar with a task or activity, and this is not the place to have any pride. You're there to learn as much as you can. Don't expect to get paid if you're receiving college credit. Some companies will still pay, usually a minimum wage, and if you're not receiving credit, then it's likely that you will get paid, but again, interns are not required to be paid if they're getting college credit for it. Don't take time for granted. So recognize that your employer's time is valuable and they're investing time and energy into you. And you might only be there for 8 or 12, 15 weeks. And that is a lot of time that the employer will put into you. And if you're not staying on afterwards, that it's an investment. They're not putting it into an employee. They're taking time out of a day that they could be billing to instruct you and to help you understand what the career is all about. So don't take their time for granted, and recognize if they only have a limited time, or try to be efficient about the questions you have and experiences that you do. Don't assume you can do your homework on the job or use company resources to complete your project. Now, I don't think this has ever happened with any of my interns, but I would just put it in there as like an ethical thing that you're there to learn. And again, like I just said, the time is valuable for your employers. So don't ask if you can complete your homework, or start using the company's resource library to help finish a project that you're working on unless you ask first. Your employer might volunteer. They're like, oh, sure, anything you want, but do not assume that you can do that. Okay, don't be afraid to ask questions about interior design as a career and business practices. So if you have questions about what it's like to run an interior design business or the day-to-day aspects of a job, ask. There is no better way to learn than to ask someone who's living it. And we've had a lot of interns do that and ask about like, what's the operation for this? Or what is an operations manual? Why would you need that? And how do I work with contractors and all those types of things? So those are good to just ask. Oftentimes I'll take the intern in the car with me. So in between meetings, I'll kind of tell them as much as I can about running the business and my experiences and things like that. And then lastly, Don't stress if you can't get an internship. So it's not a do or die requirement to being a designer. Many designers haven't done internships. I definitely recommend it, but don't stress out if you can't get one. We have often too many requests for interns that we can't accommodate. And so a solution to that is why actually I started my Design Mentor, the mentorship program that I have. And so I will oftentimes, if I already have an intern set up, I'll be like, well, check out my Design Mentor, because that is a program that I thought would help people who are looking for an internship who maybe can't get one. Because in there we discuss business practices, how to work with trades, making yourself marketable, how to customize your designs, doing work with manufacturers and workrooms and things like that. So if you are looking for an internship and you are not able to get one locally where you're at, then you might want to try out my Design Mentor and see if that is a good stepping stone before starting your new career. One thing I would recommend for those of you looking for an internship is you could also do multiple internships. You can do an internship with a larger firm and then maybe a solopreneur who doesn't have anyone else working for them. Both would need help. And when I was a solopreneur, I loved having interns because I basically just used them as my design assistants, had them do a lot of different things. And it was a great experience for me as a business owner to learn how to work with someone who might be an employee someday. And that kind of set the path for me having my own employees. Because there is a difference to doing everything yourself and then trying to teach someone else how to do it. And that's where having your operations and systems written down really would help with that. So don't be afraid to reach out to firms of different sizes. And for those of you out there who are in the process of looking for an internship or going to start one, I will tell you that I think that you are now better prepared, and I wish you well in that endeavor. So I hope that was helpful for you if you are about to start an internship or considering doing one, that you will now know how to approach it and what to expect from it. Again, I highly recommend that you do one if you have it at all possible to you, but if not, go ahead to my website, which is rwarddesign.com, and you can find out more about my Design Mentor there. Also, on my website, you'll find the show notes for this episode, as well as all the other episodes in the Design Curious podcast, and get more information about that. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.